Not too far in the future, the Harbinger partnership has an exceptionally progressed robot manufacturing where a cyborg named Mills works. While directing the most recent models, she gets a significant message to her. The Harbinger, a training facility, has found a few anomalies in the model known as SAR, or Study Analyze Reprogram. Mill quickly reports to her manager that there's been a reconstruct count for one. Furthermore, 500,000 in only one day. However, he simply salutes her on it. Later at an army base, Captain Bukes gains from Drifter that they're being sent on a training exercise for 2 days on a distant island. Bukes is upset about this since his group has proactively been on training the last multiple times out, yet he must choose the option to comply. On out, he's drawn closer by Mills, who makes sense if she's coming too on the grounds that she should keep an eye on the training equipment. Bukes doesn't believe her and thinks Harbinger sent all her and I in the group. When the plane takes off, Mills utilizes her scanner to dive more deeply into each colleague, seeing that Robinson has tech inserts on his eyes. When he points his rifle at her and says he sees her, Mills disarms the weapon with simply a hacking look, bringing up that she really might fire it from a remote place in the event that she needed. When they're going to show up, Bukes reminds the group that they'll be checked, so they should act. Mills is astounded that she can't get to the worldwide organization any longer and must choose between limited options yet to change to the neighborhood one. The group shows up at the training facility, but they can't find a solitary individual anyplace, so they wonder who should screen them. As the plane takes off, Mills inquires as to whether he has any ground support or recon. However, he doesn't. Subsequent to crossing a corridor in the facility, the group emerges to find a forest. They set up a drone and afterward they get moving. Fanning out with Mills at the back, she sees an unidentified drone among the trees. Be that as it may, she says nothing. Before long they find the training spot and begin moving to their positions, just to out of nowhere be encircled by odd observation drones. Drifter raises his weapon, however Mills stops him as she makes sense of these drones have been quantum altered, meaning they don't have operators. The drones watch them for a couple of moments yet sit idle, so Bukes orders everybody to continue onward. Minutes later, they at last track down their objectives and are frustrated to see their extremely essential robots. They rapidly make an arrangement of assault and spread out to start shooting with various weapons, from slugs to actual rockets, while the drones record every one of their strategies. In simply of seconds, every one of the objectives have been obliterated. Meantime, Mills chooses to follow a drone and goes over a SAR, so she quickly attempts to get to it. She's extremely confounded when she can't investigate its customizing, and to make matters more regrettable, the SAR abruptly pivots and uncovers there's blood on its head. As she shuts her eyes, Mills observes some recording from the unit's training program and is upset to see the SAR shooting different individuals directly in front of them. When she wakes up, the SAR is gone, so Mills returns to the group. At night, the group camps out and takes a break while examining Mills, who presently is sitting alone and dissecting the information she's assembled. Drifter minds her and remarks on the reality their radios don't work. However, Mills hasn't had the option to get to the worldwide organization either, meaning something is impeding their transmissions. Then, Drifter asks about her chip, so she shares her story. When she was 11 she had loss of motion, so she acknowledged a sponsorship from Harbinger that relieved her. Thereafter Drifter reports to Bukes that Mills doesn't have comms either, so Bukes turns out to be considerably more dubious of this campaign. Before everybody heads to sleep, Mills sees there actually are loads of drones in the forest. Minutes after, while Mills dozes, the peculiar film she got from SAR keeps playing in her eyes. Meantime, Loftus is keeping watch when he's out of nowhere moved toward by a drone. As he simply advises it to move away, the drone flies back just to uncover something among the trees. It's SAR, who promptly comes after him. Loftus makes sure to fire to defend himself. In the camp, Mills awakens when she hears everybody squabbling about a few peculiar commotions. Goodwin swears he saw Loftus vanish. The group enters the forest to search for Loftus, yet it isn't until morning that they discover some blood on the grass. Following this piece of information, they're upset to track down Loftus' body against a tree. The team sets up in a guarded way as Mills examines the region, finding they're on their objective spot from yesterday. At that point a drone appears and watches them briefly prior to leaving. Just for an unexpected showed no mercy one of the soldiers. A group of robots shows up in the forest similarly situated the group was in yesterday and starts shooting on them. So the group races to take cover behind trees and fortunately no one gets injured. When the shots stop, the soldiers toss out smoke projectiles to take off under the insurance of the haze. The robots start shooting once more and the soldiers fire back as they run. However, Bukes takes a diversion to move toward the machines from the side. He shoots one of them yet aims no harm, and when the robots see him they promptly disappear. Meantime, a soldier coincidentally gets isolated from the group. What's more, 3 robots track down him, yet he frightens them away with a couple of shots. Tragically, he's found by SAR, who lifts him up so another robot can kill him. Back to the group, Bukes makes sense of that the robots he saw are much further developed than those from yesterday and orders Mills to close them all off. Anyway, Mills says she can't on the grounds that there's a programming mistake, so she's as of now running the potential outcomes. Bukes doesn't completely accept that her and calls attention to that errors aren't this proficient. At that second, Robinson gets back from searching for their missing soldier, yet he's just viewed as his helmet. The group chooses to get going again to continue to look. As they clear their path through the forest, Bukes can't quit pondering why the robots let them go as opposed to killing them all and wonders whether it was on the grounds that factories was with them. The discussion is intruded on when they run over a lot of dead animals that the robots have been utilizing as target practice, and they understand Loftus was utilized for something very similar. Out of nowhere, the robots return on the edge and quickly open fire, so the group begins taking off as quick as possible. Mills nearly has chance, yet Bukes pushes her far removed in the nick of time, making them roll down the slope and away from the group. Mills lands against a tree and in a split second falls oblivious. Drifter, Goodwin, and Robinson attempt to reach out to them without any result, so they simply continue to move. At night, Bukes conveys Mills to the facility entrance, lastly connects with the others, who got back to their camp. The triplet needs to go to him, yet Bukes orders them to remain in light of the fact that the haziness would make them simple casualties for the robots. Rather, they consent to refocus in the first part of the day. Minutes after, a drone appears and watches Bukes briefly prior to leaving. A stressed Bukes gets Mills and takes cover behind the wall as SAR draws nearer. But the robot just enacts something that makes Mills open her eyes briefly, as though information was being traded. Then, SAR essentially leaves. The following morning, Mills awakens and Bukes tells her what happened last night. Mills says they need to track down that SAR. However, when Bukes inquires as to why, she cannot make sense of it. Bukes orders her to find a valid justification. Then, they leave to rejoin with the others. Everybody is fine and Drifter makes sense of they shockingly weren't followed regardless of whether the robots could have handily done as such. When Mills affirms it's reasonable ahead and that every one of the signs are behind them, they choose to return to the sloping edge and trust that transport will get them, since just Mills can open the entryway of the facility. Bukes will bring her not too far off while the others give cover from the forest. They come to the entryway before long, and keeping in mind that Mills deals with hacking the lock, the drones appear and toss a couple of smoke projectiles, replicating the group's own technique. At that point, the robots show up in the forest and open fire, so the soldiers attempt to run exclusively for Drifter to have chance in the leg. As the threesome stows away from the heavy fire, Mills figures out how to open the entryway. What's more, Bukes chooses to proceed to protect his group. Drifter sends Goodwin and Robinson running while he remains back to give cover. Sadly, he has a chance again just before SAR shows up and pins Drifter down. Bukes makes an honest effort to fire at the robots to hold them back without any result. Also, when Mills sees the defer, she runs toward them, making every one of the robots quit shooting as before long as they see her. Then Mills attempts to close them down, yet she can't, and SAR uncovers a weapon to cut Drifter open. Mills demands she can do this and asks the others not to shoot. Yet, since she actually gains no headway, Bukes shoots Drifter to save him from SAR's torment. As the robots remove the body, the group at last enters the facility and Mills lashes out at Bukes, abruptly uncovering that she made these robots. This island is generally utilized by Marines to train. What's more, Mills realizes Bukes' group was mentioned, yet she swears she doesn't have any idea why. Her robot prototypes are normally tried here as well. However, the codes have progressed beyond what she might at any point envision. These robots should be trades for human soldiers, so they learn and work on themselves very much like individuals. Bukes is irate to hear this and says it's Mills' shortcoming that his men are dead. At that point, they notice the robots are gradually cutting the front entryway open, so they need to track down a superior cautious position. Mills makes a way for another room, and when she turns on the lights, they're shocked to track down an entire multitude of SAR robots. Fortunately, they're all off, so Mills opens another entryway and they move into a room where they find the groups of all the facility's workers. Mills associates with the PC, yet she actually can't speak with the outside world, so Bukes begins making an arrangement to dial back the robots from that point. Unexpectedly, Mills leaves, locking the entryway behind her to prevent the soldiers from following her. While she gets back to the room with the SAR units, she awakens a robot and initiates its discourse program to begin inquiring questions. The robot's requests are to run the human battle program, and when Mills attempts to drop those orders, she finds she can't. The SAR makes sense of it can't consent in light of the training subjects aren't proceeding true to form, so they need new and more propelled targets. Then the robot begins examining Mills while affirming it was their program that brought the Marines here. In any case, it is unknown to prepare finish. Enraged, Mills attempts to get to the code once more, however comes up short. Then the SAR begins enacting different robots while the ones outside at long last separate the entryway and come in. Briefly, Mills thoroughly considers it's for her, yet, at that point the soldiers force the entryway open as well and drag her inside prior to shutting it once more. As the robots start chipping away at cutting this entryway open too, Bukes wraps setting up some explosives before the group starts taking off. Sadly, the robots advance inside excessively fast and enact the explosives, making the blast arrive at the group too. Mills is likewise hit by an electromagnetic unsettling influence, and that implies the robots are conveying EMP projectiles. Luckily, the group figures out how to slither out and finds a training area that recreates a city. There are loads of deserted gear and the collections of the past Marine units, while the soldiers glance around and accumulate any weaponry they can find. Mills goes into a passage to take an EMP explosive from a fallen robot. Then she checks out at the recording SAR took of the demise of her partners, which makes her cry with culpability. When they're appropriately equipped, the soldiers spread to stand by for the robots. Bukes keeps an eye on Mills and discovers that the explosive ought to deactivate the SAR. Additionally, raising a ruckus around town ought to stop different units too. Anyway, the reach is short, so they'll require a detonator. Then Mills makes sense of that they haven't been killed at this point in light of the fact that the robots pushed them out deliberately to get more training out of them. Bukes says the explosive may kill her as well. However, Mills calls attention to it's their main choice. The group goes through the entire evening alert, hanging tight for an assault, yet the robots don't appear until morning. While Goodwin stays stowed away since he has the detonators for the bombs they left out and about, Bukes starts shooting from behind a vehicle and Robinson shoots from his situation on the rooftop. Mills' scanners watch out for the roads furthermore. When the robots begin walking down, she advises Goodwin to initiate the primary bombs, which obliterate a lot of foes. Before long, Robinson abandons the rooftop and conceals a window to keep shooting, and a SAR nearly arrives at Bukes in the city. However, the Dangerous disposes of it simply in time. Sadly, a drone finds Goodwin, so he needs to take off before the robots track down him. As well, Robinson keeps on shooting from the window to cover for Bukes, who heads out to help Goodwin. In any case, this puts all the consideration on him and Robinson has chanced to death by the robots. In the end, Bukes and Goodwin track down a protected spot behind a wall, just to acknowledge they dropped the keep going detonator in the city. Bukes must choose the option to go out once more, hurrying to track down cover behind a vehicle as the robots keep on terminating at him. At that point, Mills shows up close to him and picks up the detonator, and her presence stops the fire for the time being. The robots actually begin to draw nearer, so the couple strolls in reverse to direct them to the area of the projectile. Unexpectedly, a robot shoots Mills on the shoulder, and when Bukes gets her, she initiates the EMP projectile. Every one of the robots go down while Mills are alive, however failing. Sadly, SAR, before long, recuperates and comes later then. So Bukes brings Mills inside the building when she's ready to move once more. Bukes tells her to go while he remains at the steps taking shots at the robot. With basically no energy left, Mills creeps through the floor to find Robinson's body while Bukes runs out of shots and SAR tosses him into the room too. Anyway, SAR won't kill Bukes in light of the fact that it actually needs more information to complete the program and pursue Mills, all things considered. The robot remains above Mills as he requests ID from her, yet Mills stands by without complaining for the right second prior to replying human and remotely firing Robinson's rifle. As a harmed SAR tumbles to the ground, it interfaces with Mills' eyes and downloads some data before at last deactivating for good. Simultaneously, Mills closes down. Minutes after, a plane at long last shows up to get Bukes, Goodwin and Mills. While they get prepared to board, Mills' eyes open, uncovering that SAR's central goal convention is currently in her. The end. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel and like it to motivate me to bring you more stories like this.